Very quickly, today, the Laken Riley Act passed the first procedural vote it needed to in the Senate. It was overwhelming, which is really great news because it pretty much guarantees that it is going to pass in the Senate, which means the Laken Riley Act will become law and we'll start taking illegal immigration in this country just a little bit more seriously. Now, certainly under a Donald Trump administration, they're going to utilize this to the best of their ability. It might have to be in red states only to begin with, but you know what? Something tells me a lot of us won't mind that at least it's being utilized in red states. And if the blue states like Washington want to continue to inflict this mess on them, you know, that's their choice. I want to talk about a lawsuit against the city of Seattle via the police department. And this is pretty much the only time you will ever hear me side with the Seattle Times and side against the Seattle Police Department, although really it's more about siding against the city of Seattle. And on the surface, this is a lawsuit about something that will sound incredibly boring to you. You're going to be all like, oh, I got to go to our sponsor, wasleep.com.
Oh, great.
Except it's very, very, very important. It is incredibly important. And you hear me talk about this on the show somewhat frequently. Public disclosure requests. Do you know what that is, a PDR?
It's like...
Oh, this will be good. Okay, he cleared his throat, so he's going to get serious in his discussion.
Well, I'm just trying to think.
I'm just wasting time trying to
that's
figure
exactly
out
what's happening.
A public disclosure request.
A public disclosure is like a reporter will ask the police department for information about a case, and there's only a certain amount of information that they can give out, and so they give them a public disclosure thing.
Close-ish.
I'll take it.
Close-ish. First of all, it's oftentimes done by journalists, but anyone can put in a public disclosure request. Anything, for the most part, that a government agency does, puts in writing, emails, memos, PowerPoints, things like that, text messages, voicemails, videos. That is our property. We have the right to access that under the Public Records Act. There is a narrow bit of materials we don't have access to. Personally identifiable information of minors, for example, is exempt. Sometimes it's exempt if there is an active investigation when talking specifically about police. That's exempt. Once it's closed, it's no longer exempt. What the city of Seattle has been doing, not just via the Seattle Police Department, but that's a big part about this. What they've been doing is dragging out the process, sometimes years. And so let's say there's something that happened this week that is of import. It's a big deal. It's a story. And I need to get a document, a memo that explains a decision that was made that led to a death. It's obviously a story. So you put in your public disclosure request, and they come back and basically say, oh yeah, we'll get this to you. We're expecting the first installment of documents to get to you January, what's today, the 9th, January 25th. So you're like, okay, I mean, that's not great. I'd prefer it be sooner, but okay, I guess. And then you realize it says January 25th, 2027. Oof. Yeah. I have public disclosure requests that I made 2 years ago that still haven't been fulfilled, that were stories 2 years ago. Now I don't even remember what I was looking into.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
That's how long it's been. And that's precisely why the Seattle Times is suing. They say by putting records requests on hold for years, they're denying access to information that matters, that is newsworthy, that we have the right to know about. They say at issue is how the department receives and processes requests for records, a right guaranteed by state law for more than 50 years to promote transparency in government. Under a policy set by former Mayor Ed Murray in 2017, the department routinely groups requests made by a single person, and they'll process it one at a time. Citing the policy, SPD continually delays the release of records. In some egregious cases, records could take years to be released, often long past when the information they contain is relevant. And they give examples in the Seattle Times piece as to where this has come up for them. They bring up, for example, Chop Chaz, summer of 2020, the summer of love. Now, they wanted records for different reasons. They had no problem with Chop or Chaz. They had a problem with cops going after the rioters. They say people made thousands of requests, often receiving estimates of more than a year. That is absurd. That's absurd. And so they're going after the grouping policy, which, according to their lawyer, empowers the city staff to neglect new requests from those who have multiple older requests still pending. This punishes journalists and other requesters with a strong or recurring interest in city records. Now, they didn't get a response from the SPD. They're not going to. If anything, they'll say we don't comment on pending litigation, which is legitimate. But they're saying that this violates the Public Records Act. And it's funny because they're pointing to Mike Carter, who's an anti-cop reporter for the Seattle Times, who, quote, filed multiple requests over related to rumors. I think they made a mistake. Filed multiple requests related to rumors of an affair between Chief Diaz and a subordinate, including for travel records and calendars. In response, Carter was told by the department that his requests would be grouped together and put on hold while two earlier requests were processed. The processing of the July 2023 request was pushed back initially until the end of 2023 and then extended until the end of 2024. Last month, SPD put 4 of the 5 July 2023 requests on hold until the end of 2025.
They do this, keep pushing it down the road.
They do this all the time, and every once in a while, I'll respond and get really, really snippy, like really snippy. And then they'll respond, not necessarily SPD, but various outlets or various agencies. They'll say, we're very limited on staff. Like I'm supposed to feel bad. It's your job. And by the way, they charge you every time they do this. It's not a lot. It's like $1.25, but you're getting paid for this already. What am I paying an additional $1.25? And sometimes there's some group, I want to say it's Seattle. It might be the Seattle Public Schools. They will charge and you'll have to send in a check. Like, no,